Wanghui as one of the top 100 public lecturers in the world 2 years ago. And then 2 days ago, he delivered the keynote speech in the annual meeting of Association of Asian Studies. So now, without further ado, please join me welcoming Professor Wanghui's visit to Rutgers and enjoy the lecture.
Thank you, Weijie. He's my older friend, but don't trust his over-kind introduction. It's sometimes people suffered from that the illusion of the fame. I dislike. I have to say this, but thank you very much. It's for your very kindness for this. Because of it's too black, so I have to sit down. If you saw that it's not good, I stand up. Try to, whether or not, just let me know whether or not it's clear. You can listen to it, hear me. Okay, it's fine because my discussion today, we are concerned about the Chinese intellectuals' reflection last years on the so-called rise of modern China, because you know that every day. You read the newspaper, like it or dislike it, and love it or hate it. But China became quite an important the issue everywhere. And how to evaluate the economic growth? It's also, the opinion was divided, both in the world and within China too. So last year, it was the 60 years anniversary of the PRC. And the year before last year, it was 30 years anniversary of Chinese reform. So it's interesting. One of the divides among the Chinese intellectuals about the current developments and its possible future, maybe futures of China. The opinion was so divided, which can be, it's fine? Oh, use this one. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, this is good. So that has been summarized by several intellectuals into the slogan or the sentence, is the 30 years or the 60 years? Which means that the current, if you want to explain the growth of China, the economic growth and the importance of China in the world system, that it's mainly contributed to the 30 years reform, or that reform based on the longer history, started from the 1949, so the PRC history, the whole thing. So we know that there was after the cultural, there was negation of cultural revolution, negation of the revolution, and so on and so forth. So it is actually how to evaluate. For me, it's not only the 60 years and the 30 years, but how to evaluate the 20th century and the new development in China last decades. So because it's a long revolution in China, longest revolution in the world history maybe. So this is it's from 1911 revolution, for example, down to the Cultural Revolution. We know that several scholars label that the Cultural Revolution as the last revolution, which means that it's a long process. How to evaluate that long process and its relation to the Chinese economic reform? We used to try to divide it. We thought that the reform was started from negation. But historically speaking, what's the real the connections between these two phases? I think this is a crucial issue, quite sensitive politically, morally, and culturally. So this is why that's a sharp debate among the Chinese intellectuals on this issue. So this is why I try to contribute to my analysis, and I will try to analyze in an outline. It's a very short, simple, maybe very simple, over-simple way to show that there's some preconditions for the Chinese reform, which not so many people touch upon that. But that was the precondition for the Chinese reform. And I try to also analyze that the shifts of change of these preconditions in contemporary context to examine now the crisis and the possibilities, why that happened, linked to that, the shifts of that. So the first issue, I try to talk about the so-called self-reliance, 独立自主, which shaped it's in the late 50s, took the shape, the policy, and its political connotation. So in discussing the Chinese model, so-called Chinese model, is very divided. Nobody knows whether or not there was such a model, but they talk about this kind of the model anyway. Many scholars are in the habit of comparing China's development to the disintegration of the Soviet and Eastern European system, emphasizing China's stability while forgetting conveniently that the general crisis that broke out in 1989 began in China. So its traces can still be found in different spells in China today. Like the recent financial crisis, the 1989 crisis was part of a larger global crisis, but although it also occurred in the context of economic crisis, it appeared to be political in form. So why did China not collapse along with the other Communist Party-led socialist countries in the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe? That is a great question, I think. What factors help to maintain China's stability and create the conditions for the rapid growth, no matter whether or not you like it or dislike it? Because from the perspective of critique of the developmentalism, the growth was not necessarily good thing. So this is I'm trying to put aside the value judgment on these growths, but try to explain it, because otherwise it's lost the historical sense for these. Having undergone 30 years of reform, how have these conditions now been transformed? This is the first question to which we must respond. So I ask this question because I think most of the observation about the Chinese developments started from the comparison or the perspective from Western perspective to compare China and the Western developments. But one of the great developments after 1989 was, or has been, the great divergence between China and those former socialist countries in Russia and the Soviet, the Eastern Europe. So how to understand that? The collapse of the Soviet and the Eastern European system involved many deep and complex historical factors, including the opposition between the bureaucratic system and the people, Cold War political absolutism, and the mass poverty brought on by shortage economies. By comparison, a more widespread consciousness of a self-renewal existed within the Chinese system. It's ironical, because it's under the Cultural Revolution. Middle and senior level bureaucrats in the party and the state were sent by Mao Zedong to work and live in the factories, farms, and within other basic units of society. So a lot of the tragedies revealed after the Cultural Revolution in the process. However, when they returned to the positions of authority in the late 1970s, an unexpected consequence was that the state was better able to respond to the needs of the lower strata of society, which was a significant difference from the rigid bureaucratic systems of the Soviet and the Eastern European countries. That's one of the ironical, I think, the phenomena. On the one hand, the CR, the Cultural Revolution, was a tragedy, but the unexpected